friends, Amanda here. Welcome back to Handmade Not Hallmark. Today I've got this beautiful Tulip Mother's Day card using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. Hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Today I'm going to be using the Mother's Day Tulips stamp from Simon Says. This is just a beautiful large stamp and I absolutely love it. And the first thing I want to do is I want to get into my coloring right away. It didn't take me a whole lot of time just because I only used a few colors. I didn't mix anything up too much, but I wanted to get this colored ahead of time because this is the main focus of the card. As you can see here, this is a beautiful stamp and it is very large, and you could easily make a 5x7 card out of this, a slimline. I'm going to do a regular A2 sized card. I apologize if you hear any rain in the background. We are getting absolutely pummeled with rain the next 2 days, so if you hear some rain in the background, I do apologize. I've got a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock here. I just cut a piece in half and I plan on trimming it down a little bit later. This is my preferred cardstock for using my Zig markers. I am not very proficient with my Zigs just yet. I am practicing, but I do really like the Bristol smooth cardstock because they glide over really well. I'm also using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This is a really nice ink for using watercolors that doesn't bleed or anything, and I really like the nice crispness of this ink. I'm going to hit that with my heat gun a little bit just to make sure that everything's nice and dry because I did double stamp it and this is a pigment ink. I'm going to have some music playing while I do my coloring, and the colors are going to be listed along the screen here. And I'm going to be using my blender instead of some water. This is again my preferred way to do it. Once all of the coloring is finished, we'll go ahead and finish up this card together.
Gonna stay in this moment, gonna lay here on the grass. I don't need to feel lonely, I am finally home at last. And I don't mind being gone on adventures for a while. No, no, 'cause the best thing about it is I know I'm coming back. Oh, oh. Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you. Been walking down the street so many times, my feet know every brick and stone. Could wear a blindfold, no matter what I do, I'm coming home to you. And I don't know why, don't know why, don't know why, I'm always feeling homesick. Oh, all I know, all I know, all I know is this is where my heart is. Oh, I have seen the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you.
Once I had all the coloring finished, I used one of my Waffle Flyers stacked rectangle dies to cut out my panel here. Now comes the scary bit. I am going to be using this thin frames die from Simon. This is one of my favorite dies to use, and I am kind of channeling a card that I did a few years ago with a big floral from Simon, and I cut out a frame out of some black cardstock and framed up this floral image. Now, like I said, this is pretty scary. You did all that coloring and now you're going to cut it apart, but I think the end result is super fantastic. It just kind of adds a little bit of interest and frames up your greeting, and I just think it looks really cool with this nice thick lined image. With the heavy lines on this, I really think the black kind of goes along with it, and again, it just adds some interest. I just used some Simon Says black cardstock to cut out my little frame here, and you have to be super careful with this because it is very, very delicate and thin, but again, I think this looks super, super neat. And that's what we're going to go for here, what we're kind of going along with. Next, I'm going to get my greeting ready, and I'm using the Script Mom Shadow die from Simon. This is a little bit of an older set, and I absolutely love this scripty greeting. I'm just going to speed through this process here. Because this is so thin and delicate, I'm going to stack up some white cardstock together, 3 here, to add the dimension that I'm going for my greeting. My 3M foam strips won't quite fit behind this, so stacking up the cardstock is a good way to, one, use up stacks and get some nice dimension. I also cut the shadow portion out of some vellum, and the last layer of my mom die here, I just used some glitter cardstock from my stash to add a nice pop of shine to this card. I really love how this looks, and again, this is one of my favorite ways to do die cut greetings. While that's drying under some acrylic blocks here, we're going to get our card base done. Now, this didn't really turn out the way that I really wanted it to. It got a little bit too dark. I probably should have maybe did like a second generation stamping instead of going full in, just because the line work on this is so thick that it took up a lot of the ink, so it wasn't as faint as I wanted it to be. I still like the card. I continued on with it. I used my fog ink from Simon and stamped down the same image on the inside of my card. Again, it was a little bit darker than I was hoping for, but it still works out. You could still write over it pretty easily, I think, with a nice dark ink, and it will be just fine. I also took out the Happy Mother's Day greeting from this same stamp set to add my greeting on the inside, and I just used the that VersaFine Onyx Black ink I used earlier to stamp this down. I figured this was the darkest ink that I had that would, maybe go over top of this just fine. I contemplated cutting out like a colored circle and putting it on the inside, but I decided just to let it go. I didn't want to have to get out any more dies in my machine or anything, so I just kind of let it be. I did 2 stampings, and I also dried it with my heat gun just to make sure that it was good and dry so that it didn't transfer to the top portion of my card base. Once my card base was all ready, we can get right into the assembly of this card. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can attach all of these different elements to the card. You can use liquid glue, you can use tape runner, you can, use anything. I prefer using the liquid glue just because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room to get everything nice and lined up where it needs to be. This panel is cut down just slightly smaller than my card base, just to give a little bit of a white frame all the way around. It's pretty thin, but I still like the effect. Once I get that portion down, I just took a really thin bead of that liquid glue all around the inside edge of that first frame so I could get my small black frame in place. Again, there are several ways that you can do this. I prefer doing it this way. You could use stick-it adhesive, you could use double-sided adhesive, anything like that. I just like having that little bit of extra wiggle room just to make sure that everything is right where it needs to be. And I'm using my crystal katana tool here just to kind of poke that frame right up against that other one to get it nice in place. So I apologize if my head gets in the way. I'm just getting right over top of that to make sure I get everything in place. Again, going in with that liquid glue for this last section of our card. And I just love how this looks. It looks so dramatic, and I just love those tulips. They're some of my favorite spring flowers. Perfect. Love it, love it, love it. Now we can get our greeting ready. I wanted to create a secondary greeting to go with my mom script, so I took the Inside Kindness stamp from Honeybee and chose the thank you greeting, and I'm going to heat emboss that on top of some black cardstock using some Simon Says clear embossing ink. Just going to prep my little my cardstock here, excuse me, so that the embossing powder will only stick to the greeting. And I'm going to be using some Brutus Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder. I really love the look of black and white greetings. I think it looks super neat. And this particular stamp set does have a coordinating die set. Another one of the reasons I use this set a lot, just because I love the look of having the greeting cut out. I think it looks really, really nice. Once that was all ready to go, and I'm going to hit it with my heat gun, I'm going to trim it out with my die here, and we can get this card all put together. And I just love how sweet and simple that greeting looks. Super sharp and nice and clean and classy. And I'm going to use some liquid glue to attach my glittered die cut here. You could pop it up if you wanted to, but I wanted it to sit nice and flat against that. And I love using that vellum just because it mutes the images behind it and it looks really, really nice. I am going to use some foam adhesive on the back of this particular my secondary greeting here, just because I wanted it to pop up kind of around that mom cut, just because that is a little bit thicker, and I kind of wanted to overlap it just a tiny bit, just to kind of fill in that space there. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of splatter. Now this isn't for everybody. You could totally leave this card here where it was, but I wanted to add just a little bit of interest. I just took out my favorite metallics watercolor set, and I'm going to use the gold and I'm going to use the black. I know, super scary. Why would you want to splatter black all over your beautiful drawing? But it looks really, really good. I really think it rounds out the card and it finishes it off nicely. Again, I'm just watering this down. This is just some Perfect Pearls in this little spray bottle. It's no longer Shimmer Mist. I just took some water and Perfect Pearls to create a little bit of a shimmery kind of mixture. And I'm just splattering this pretty heavily. I really like the way that it looked. And that's why I decided to go in with a little bit of the black. I thought about doing the Nouveau drops, but I didn't want to have like a shiny kind of embellishment on here. This black kind of dries a little bit matte, and I think it kind of goes with the look that I'm going for. I only wanted the shine to come off of the mom greeting and off of the gold kind of in the background. So I just took that black and I did it very lightly. I think I only tapped my brush maybe twice and got just those couple of splatters here and there. I guess I did it more than twice, but I didn't want a ton on it, and that finishes this beautiful card. If you liked the video, hit the like button as well as the subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos here at my YouTube channel. I hope you guys have a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. I can't wait to share with you guys some more videos next week. Have a great day. I'll see you again soon. Bye.
On screen, I've got a few videos that I think you'll enjoy. Consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos at my YouTube channel.